When I first ever watched Overlord and then ended up reading the light novels for the series, I always wanted to see a series like Overlord, but done in a more outlandish and fun, charismatic way. Just something that just goes so much more further than what Overlord did. And one of the reasons why I absolutely love Eminence in the Shadow, and I've mentioned this multiple times, is because Eminence in the Shadow fills the gap that was left with Overlord. Because when I got into Overlord, it was with season 2. That was when I first got into Overlord, when season 2 came out, and I gave season 1 a try, watched season 2, and then also got into the light novels, and I read those and I kept up to date on it. And then of course season 3 and season 4 came out. But one of the downsides is that the series is coming to an end, and with how infrequent the volumes do come out, and there's only 2 more volumes coming out and then the series is done, there is this big gap in me that really yearns to find something that fills that niche, that fills those little boxes that I really love. And of course, when I made my first video when Eminence in the Shadow came out, season 1, I saw some interesting, let's just say heated comments, let's just underplay it there, where people were getting quite angry that I compared the two together. But as I said in my previous video, there are a lot of similarities, and I get comments regularly pointing out that there are a lot more similarities between the two than people realize. That there's clearly a lot of inspiration from Overlord that is put into Eminence in the Shadow. It's not a carbon copy by any means, but there's a lot of interesting inspiration, and I think that's great, because I think Overlord is something that is quite unique in itself, that it is a protagonist that can kind of be seen as good and evil at the same time, but generally is perceived as evil with the actions that they do, and again that gets into a hot topic there. And then also the way the cast around Irons looks at him almost like a godlike figure that can do no wrong. Like every time Irons does something, it just somehow executes into the most flawless, perfect plan. And Eminence in the Shadow does it in a similar way, in the sense of the girls that he's recruited and saved look at him like a godlike figure, Sid, Shadow, and everything he does, even if it's just so ridiculous that it shouldn't have worked out the way it did, it just does. It always goes flawlessly. It's the fun humor behind it, the jabs that it has at the isekai genre. Because yes, there's a lot of isekais out there. They've been done to the ends of the earth, and I've had this debate multiple times, and there's a lot of romance, there's a lot of harems, a lot of shomens out there, a lot of battle type series out there. But there are, yes, a lot of isekais, and there are a lot of isekais that are very carbon copy, almost like mass manufactured, where they don't really have as much flair or personality in them. And I've talked about this before, the whole isekai non-isekai issue, where a main protagonist is isekai'd, but it really isn't an isekai. It's just they use the first 5 minutes of an episode, or the first like small part of a volume, where they go, oh yeah, this guy's an office worker and now he's just reincarnated, and then they never touch on the backstory of that person. It's just never exists again. They just use it as a quick way to throw it, yes, it's an isekai, so they can shove the tag in there, so they can market it as that, so it gets more publicity. And that's one of the issues with isekais, is yeah, there are a lot of isekais that really should not be isekais because of just how lazy they are with using that tag. But when you've got something like Eminence in the Shadow, it's such a fun isekai that really does take things in an interesting direction. It is full of so much flair and flavor and chemistry between the different characters, and the waifus itself. Like, yeah, it's a series with a boatload of hot waifus. That's the point. Yes, the main protagonist is ridiculously overpowered. Every single thing he does goes flawlessly. That's the point. And I think some of the hate that the series gets it because people don't understand that that's the joke. Like, sure, you don't have to like the joke. Again, everyone has their own taste in what they find funny and not funny. But I think some people don't understand that that is the joke, and they think it's something else. Like, they think the series is trying to be serious, when it's in fact not trying to be serious. It's trying to be ridiculous, but it's so fun to just sit there and watch it. And you can analyze some interesting components of it as well, because I know some content creators that do analyze some aspects of Eminence in the Shadow, and I see some people going, it's not that deep. But yeah, sure, it's not that deep, but it is fun to analyze some of these characters, because you can look at these tropes and say, hey, where are these tropes done? And why are they a trope, and why are they so common? Because there's a reason why these tropes exist and why they're so common, is because, yeah, they do actually happen in some people. Like, some people do have these weird character I wouldn't say defects, but just character tropes that are a little bit weird and quirky. And it's just fun to kind of look at that. I mean, you look at things like tsunderes. Like, people say, oh, tsunderes don't exist, but trust me, they exist. They're just probably not as common as you think, or maybe they are as common as people think. It's just we don't notice them sometimes. It just depends on your own life experiences. But for me, Eminence in the Shadow has filled that hole that I really love. And just the story itself is just fun, it's outlandish, it's charismatic, and the characters, again, all have interesting characteristics that fall back to some of the most common things that get put into isekais, like, again, the reincarnation thing, the chinibyo thing, the boatload of hot waifus that end up getting saved and end up falling in love and can see no wrong, and then the kind of Mary Sue characters, the sister complex characters, the two comic relief best friends that follow you around, that complete absolute knobs, or also just completely dense as a rock, like those fun aspects. And also the other thing, and this is shown in these recent episodes, is the introduction of Japanese culture put into the world itself and how quick it's done. But instead of it the main protagonist doing it, it's the girls that are pushing it and making a boatload of profit. It's just they're getting the ideas from him, and that's the fun of it. It takes all these different aspects that are done or overdone in isekai genres, or sometimes not all overdone, just some of them are and some of them aren't, but it takes them and just puts it to such a comedic level and just makes so much fun out of it. And so it's why personally I'm really happy that Eminence in the Shadow has filled that hole that Overlord has put there and then ended up leaving, because of course Overlord is drawing to an end, and I have my other deep thoughts about where the light novel series went that I've talked about, and I'm not going to put in this video because it is a long-winded one. It's just nice to have that thing. And I've also spoken about how, as far as the profitability goes for the studio and the publishers, Eminence in the Shadow is a massive, massive moneymaker. It is a very popular series. A lot of people really like it. If it wasn't popular, it wouldn't have got a season 2 so quickly. And it got a season 2 really quickly, and it's high quality as well. And it's got a lot of merchandise coming out this year, next year. It's popular. You cannot deny that. The series is popular, and the light novels are also quite popular as well. Currently there are only 4 English volumes and there are 6 Japanese volumes. So yeah, there's some interest in it. And that's why I'm looking forward to every single episode of Eminence in the Shadow, even when I have read the light novels. And this is probably the one series that actually I've enjoyed the most as a light novel reader, because of just how silly it is. And I know that's going to sound crazy because there are a lot of other series that I've watched, like Mushoku Tensei, Danmachi, Shield Hero, Overlord, you name it. There are a lot of other series that I've read the source material for, but this is the one that I probably really enjoy seeing in an anime format as a light novel reader, because it just, the experience is just something else. It honestly, seeing it, reading it in the light novels and seeing it play out is just a whole new level for me that I just absolutely love. And I think it does also help as well that the streaming platform is also doing simultaneous dubs as well. That demonstrates that there is a lot of interest and that they're willing to dump the dub on the day that it comes out at the same time. Demonstrates that there's a lot of interest. And I know some people don't like dubs, and that's fine. You can be a sub or a dub enjoyer, but what I'm pointing out is the fact that there's a dub coming out on the same day proves that there's a big audience, because most streaming platforms wouldn't do that so heavily. They wouldn't push that hard unless there is just that sheer of a demand for it in the Western fan base. And that's why I know, I don't think it, I know that Season 2 will not be the final season. The Eminence in the Shadow will continue. And as long as there's more volumes, and as long as there's more story, and the fan base stays interested in it, and things don't blunder, we will continue to get more Eminence in the Shadow. And of course, I will be continuing to read the light novels and review them on the channel as they come out in the English translation. So definitely check the pinned comment for the light novel reviews, because I've done volumes 1 through 4 and there are some interesting spoilers in there if you do want those spoilers. So again, if you like this video, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.